Marcus Wellington adjusted his Rolex and glanced at the playground where his 5-year-old daughter, Emma, sat alone on a bench. The other children ran around laughing and playing, but Emma remained silent, watching them with her bright green eyes. She had never spoken a word in her entire life. As the CEO of Wellington Industries, Marcus commanded respect in boardrooms across the country. He could negotiate million-dollar deals and lead thousands of employees, but he felt helpless when it came to his daughter's silence. Every specialist, every therapist, every doctor had given him the same answer. There was nothing physically wrong with Emma. She simply chose not to speak. Emma's mother had died in a car accident when Emma was just 2 years old. Since then, it had been just Marcus and Emma, along with a team of nannies and caregivers. Marcus worked long hours, often returning home after Emma was already asleep. He told himself he was building a future for her, but deep down, he wondered if his absence had somehow caused her silence. The playground was part of Marcus's new routine. His assistant had suggested that social interaction might help Emma open up. Every Saturday morning, he brought her to Riverside Park, hoping she might connect with other children. But Emma always stayed close to him, never joining in the games or activities. Today was no different. Emma wore a beautiful purple dress with matching shoes, her blonde hair perfectly braided. She looked like a little princess, but she remained isolated from the other children. Marcus watched as a group of kids played tag nearby, their joyful screams filling the air. He wished more than anything to hear Emma's voice join theirs. Maybe we should try a different park, Marcus muttered to himself, checking his phone for messages from work. He had 3 board meetings scheduled for Monday and a conference call with investors in Tokyo. The business world never stopped, even on weekends. As Marcus scrolled through his emails, he noticed a woman approaching with a young boy about Emma's age. The woman was African American, probably in her early 30s, wearing simple jeans and a worn sweater. Her son had bright eyes and an infectious smile. Marcus instinctively moved closer to Emma, his protective instincts kicking in. The woman's name was Sarah Johnson, though Marcus didn't know this yet. She was a single mother working 2 jobs to make ends meet. Her son David was her entire world, and despite their financial struggles, she made sure to bring him to the park every Saturday. It was their special time together, away from the stress of bills and responsibilities. David immediately noticed Emma sitting quietly on the bench. Unlike the other children who seemed intimidated by her silence, David was curious. He had never met someone who didn't talk, and he found it fascinating rather than strange. "Hi," David said, walking up to Emma with a friendly smile. "I'm David. What's your name?" Emma looked up at him but didn't respond. She glanced toward her father, who was watching the interaction carefully. Marcus had seen this scene play out many times before. Children would try to talk to Emma, get frustrated by her lack of response, and eventually walk away. But David didn't walk away. Instead, he sat down next to Emma on the bench, leaving a respectful distance between them. He pulled a small toy car from his pocket and began making quiet engine noises as he rolled it along the bench. "This is my favorite car," David said, not seeming bothered by Emma's silence. "It's red like a fire truck, but it's actually a race car. Do you like cars?" Emma watched the small toy with interest. She had many expensive toys at home, but there was something special about the way David played with his simple car. He wasn't trying to impress anyone or show off. He was just enjoying himself. Sarah approached slowly, not wanting to interrupt the children's interaction. She had noticed the well-dressed man watching nervously from a few feet away and assumed he was Emma's father. The tension in his posture suggested he was used to protecting his daughter from unwanted attention. "David, honey, don't bother the little girl if she doesn't want to play," Sarah said gently. "Oh, she wants to play," David replied confidently. "She just talks different than us. That's okay." Marcus was surprised by the boy's maturity. Most children Emma's age got frustrated when she didn't respond to their questions. They would often complain to their parents that Emma was being mean or rude. But David seemed to understand that Emma's silence didn't mean disinterest. Emma reached out tentatively and touched the small toy car. David immediately handed it to her, his face lighting up with joy. "You can play with it," he said. "Just don't crash it into anything too hard." For the first time since arriving at the park, Emma smiled. It was a small smile, barely noticeable, but Marcus saw it. His heart skipped a beat as he watched his daughter interact with this stranger's child in a way he had never seen before. Sarah introduced herself to Marcus, extending her hand with a warm smile. "I'm Sarah Johnson, and that's my son David. He has a gift for making friends with everyone." Marcus shook her hand, feeling slightly out of place in his expensive suit among the casually dressed families at the park. "Marcus Wellington. That's my daughter Emma. She doesn't talk much." "David mentioned that," Sarah said, watching the children play. "He doesn't seem to mind." "Most kids get frustrated with her," Marcus admitted. "They think she's ignoring them or being rude." Sarah studied Emma for a moment, noting how carefully she held David's toy car and how intently she listened to everything David said. "She's not rude at all. She's just processing things differently. David has always been drawn to kids who are a little different. I think it's because he understands what it feels like to stand out." Marcus glanced at Sarah, wondering what she meant. David seemed like a perfectly normal, happy child. But before he could ask, David was pulling Emma toward the playground equipment. "Come on, Emma. Let's go on the swings," David called out, still holding her hand. Emma looked back at her father, seeking permission. Marcus nodded, and for the first time ever, Emma left his side to play with another child. She followed David to the swing set, where he helped her onto a swing and began to push her gently. "Higher," David called out, even though Emma hadn't said anything. "I bet you want to go higher." Emma's smile grew wider as the swing carried her up toward the sky. David ran around to face her, making silly faces that caused her to laugh silently. Other children began to notice and gathered around, but instead of being intimidated, Emma seemed energized by the attention. Marcus watched in amazement as his daughter interacted with a group of children for the first time. David had somehow created a safe space where Emma felt comfortable expressing herself without words. The other kids followed David's lead, accepting Emma's silence as normal and including her in their games. Sarah stood next to Marcus, both parents watching their children with pride and wonder. "David lost his father 2 years ago," she said quietly. "He went through a period where he stopped talking too. Not completely like Emma, but he became very quiet. I think that's why he understands her so well." Marcus felt a pang of recognition. Emma had lost her mother around the same age. Perhaps that trauma was connected to her silence in ways he hadn't fully considered. He had been so focused on finding medical solutions that he hadn't thought about the emotional aspects of her condition. "How did you help David start talking again?" Marcus asked. "Time, patience, and finding the right people to connect with," Sarah replied, "and accepting that he might be different than before, but different doesn't mean broken." The words hit Marcus harder than he expected. He had spent 2 years trying to fix Emma, when maybe what she needed was simply acceptance and understanding. David wasn't trying to make Emma talk. He was just enjoying her company exactly as she was. As the morning progressed, Emma became more animated than Marcus had ever seen her. She slid down slides, climbed on monkey bars, and even participated in a game of tag. David stayed close by her side, translating her expressions and gestures for the other children when needed. "Emma thinks we should play hide and seek next," David announced, though Emma had communicated this entirely through pointing and facial expressions. "She's really good at hiding games." The other children eagerly agreed, and Emma beamed with pride. For the first time, she wasn't just watching other kids play. She was an active participant, a valued member of the group. Marcus found himself relaxing as he watched his daughter thrive in this environment. He struck up a conversation with Sarah, learning that she worked as a nurse at the local hospital and took online classes in the evenings to become a physician's assistant. Despite her busy schedule and financial challenges, she made sure to spend quality time with David every day. "You're doing an amazing job with him," Marcus said, watching David organize the hide and seek game with natural leadership skills. "He's incredibly mature and compassionate." Sarah smiled proudly. He's taught me as much as I've taught him. Kids have this ability to see past differences and connect with each other in ways adults often can't. As the game of hide and seek began, Emma found a hiding spot behind a large oak tree. David counted to 10, then began searching for the other children. He found most of them quickly, but when he got to Emma's hiding spot, he pretended not to see her for a few extra moments, giving her the joy of being the last one found. When David finally discovered Emma, she jumped out with her arms raised in victory. The other children cheered for her, and Emma's face glowed with happiness. Marcus realized he hadn't seen his daughter this genuinely happy since before her mother died. The morning flew by, and eventually other families began to pack up and leave. Marcus checked his watch and realized they had been at the park for over 3 hours. Usually, Emma would get restless after 30 minutes and want to go home. "David, it's time to go. Honey," Sarah called out. David's face fell, and he looked at Emma with disappointment. "Do you have to leave too?" Emma nodded sadly, glancing toward her father. For a moment, Marcus considered staying longer, but he had work to catch up on at home and calls to make before Monday. As the families prepared to part ways, David did something unexpected. He pulled out his small red toy car and handed it to Emma. "You can keep it," he said. "That way you'll remember our fun day, and maybe you'll bring it back next week so we can play again." Emma clutched the toy car to her chest and looked up at her father with pleading eyes. Marcus understood immediately what she was asking, without saying a word. "We'll be here next Saturday," Marcus told David and Sarah. Same time. David's face lit up with excitement, and Emma actually clapped her hands together with joy. It was the first time Marcus had seen his daughter express enthusiasm about future plans. As they walked back to their cars, Emma stayed close to her father, but kept looking back toward David and Sarah. She held the toy car carefully, treating it like a precious treasure. Marcus realized that this simple gesture meant more to Emma than any expensive gift he had ever bought her. "Thank you," Marcus said to Sarah as they reached the parking area. "I haven't seen Emma this happy in years." "Thank you for letting David befriend her," Sarah replied. "He's been talking about wanting a special friend, someone who would understand him. I think they found each other today." As Marcus buckled Emma into her car seat, she held up the toy car and smiled at him. It was a different kind of smile than he was used to seeing from her. This smile held hope and anticipation for next Saturday's visit to the park. During the drive home, Marcus kept glancing in the rearview mirror at Emma. She was quiet, as always, but there was an energy about her that hadn't been there before. She carefully examined every detail of David's toy car, turning it over in her small hands and making soft humming sounds that Marcus had never heard before. When they arrived home at their mansion in the exclusive Hillcrest neighborhood, Emma ran straight to her room with the toy car. Marcus followed and watched as she placed it carefully on her nightstand next to her bed, positioning it so it would be the first thing she saw when she woke up. That evening, as Marcus tucked Emma into bed, she pointed to the toy car and then to herself, then made a gesture toward the window. Marcus understood that she was thinking about David and looking forward to seeing him again. "Yes, sweetheart," Marcus said softly. "We'll see David next Saturday. You can play with him again."